Wading into War, Chapter 5. Outside the station, I walked just fast enough to leave the reporters behind without making it look like I was running with my tail between my legs. Berman made better visuals than I did anyway. Someone sidled up to me. "You know, you could get a reputation." I knew the voice of Gordon Gardner, reporter for the Houston Post-Dispatch. He wore his typical reporter uniform, brown suit, scuffed shoes, shirt in need of ironing, and a tie slightly askew. He and I were friends, but at that moment, I only saw a reporter. "What do you want?" I growled. "The real story." I brushed past him, wanting to get as much distance from Berman as possible. I wouldn't put it past him to make a show of asking just one more question, especially with the photographers at the ready. Gardner strolled along right beside me. It wasn't too long before I realized the obvious fact. I didn't have a ride. I stopped, and Gardner caught up with me. "Need a lift?" My mouth twitched in what could only be described as an involuntary smile. "Yeah." "Tell me everything?" I pursed my lips. A realization dawned on me. I needed a way to get my own story out to oppose Berman's, and now I had the perfect way. "Yep." I glanced at my watch. Too late to make the evening edition. "Where's your car?" "I'll tell you on the road. I want to get away from here." Gardner nodded and spun his keys around his finger. "This way. I just need the story. I can deliver by midnight for the morning edition." Minutes later, we were driving out of downtown and back to the neighborhood. I spilled almost everything I knew about which laid out in some detail in sort of order, didn't amount to much. I held back on my client's name. Gardner had his ear to the beat of our town, and I didn't want it to chance that he'd know her. Gardner listened and didn't interrupt. When I was done, he asked, So how do you know the stop in Galveston was unscheduled?" "Because I spoke to the harbor master. According to his logs, he was to let the ship pass on through to the ship channel. When they got to the request to dock, they had to make special accommodations." He glanced over me from behind the wheel of his Ford Lincoln Zephyr. "You think Rosenblatt had anything to do with the ship?" "I don't know. It was one of those things I was going to ask him when I found him." Gardner whistled softly. "Whew, man, what kind of clout do you have to get a liner to make an unscheduled stop?" "A lot." I glanced out of the window and peered through the side mirror. I wondered which set of headlights was the tail car Berman had put on me. "What are you going to do now?" "I need to talk to my client and see if she has any..." "She?" Gardner snapped his finger. "I knew it! This involves a girl, right? Who is she?" "Can't say right now." "Can't or won't?" I considered. "Won't. For now. I have a couple of things to work out before I tell you everything." "Think we can have a story by morning?" "Pretty sure, at least an initial one to counter Berman's." "Tell you what. Drop me off at my car, then get busy on your story. Write it up based on the facts I've given you, but let me proof it before you send it in, okay? I'll probably have some more information once I meet her." Gardner nodded and pulled away. Oak Street at night was bright with streetlights. Warm yellow light emerged from the windows of homes where families were together. I had a pang of regret. I'd have chances to have an easier life, but things hadn't worked out that way. So far. I looked at the darkened windows of the house where I had found Rosenblatt. I seriously considered going back in. Despite the police tape, I glanced up and down the street. Cars were parked in driveways and along the curbs. I couldn't be sure which contained the cops. Surely one would. It'd be the thing I'd have done in Berman's shoes. So, I climbed into my Pontiac Deluxe convertible and started the engine. I leaned over and opened the glove compartment. My revolver was still there. Good. I considered lowering the roof. Instead, just rolled down the windows. I sped off to see my client and to deliver the bad news that the man she had hired me to find was dead.